This is Abe, and I just want to let you guys know that we have a store, and you can buy T-shirts. You can buy. Mike's got this rap album.
Rap tracks?
Yeah, he's working on it.
You got rap tracks. You got some audiobooks on there, and we're adding more all the time.
All a la carte.
Yeah, and we just felt like, aside from me just tweeting, we should just mention it on a podcast so people know. So yeah, you can check out the Small Beans merch store. Please do. We put a lot of work into it, and there's a lot of talented artists who did as well at smallbeans.bigcartel.com. And at the same time, you know, patronizing us on patreon.com/smallbeans always really helps us out. Even if it's just $1 a month, it's a big help. And if you can't scrape up any cash and you don't want any T-shirts or raps blasted at you, we would love a 5-star review on iTunes.
Yeah.
So if you're a Small Beans fan and you'd like to support us, these are the ways in which to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.
This is the third take, and I just wanted to get Abe to do that, and he did it. So now we can finally start. This is Frame Rate,
Where we rate frames.
where we rate frames. We're recording late, so it's been hard to get
Yeah, we're gonna be
like,
loopy.
a focused, synthesized take.
good,
But
it'll
I have
be
a good
good.
feeling about this one. That voice is our special guest. Please introduce yourself, guest.
Hello, my name is Maggie.
Oh.
What? Oh, what did they do?
I kicked Abe at the same time.
It looks
It's
like you both
unrelated.
were holding hands, and when you like, I didn't notice.
We always
Under
hold
the table.
hands when we podcast.
And that's fine.
It is.
We're simply
fine.
exchanging long protein strings.
I think we have to do it. I'm Abe Epperson.
I'm Michael Swaim.
All right, we did the intro.
Yeah, Maggie Mayfish,
Yeah.
creator of hit viral videos, going up and up lately, blowing up.
Oh
You're
man.
blowing up.
Host of My Top 8 on our very own Small Beans Network, but
Yeah.
finally on Frame Rate
I know. I'm excited.
to discuss revealing her real accent for the first
For the
time
first
ever.
time.
Yeah. Oh God, guys. Yeah.
Welcome
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
It's about friendship. It's cracking.
Crap.
I guess this is a good mood for this movie because we're talking about UHF.
Yeah, 1989, right?
I believe that's correct. I forgot to bring my
Yeah.
notes up, but I know it's
That was
directed.
my first note. Was the year 1989? There it
Good.
is, right on the top
we
of my
all
paper.
podcast regularly.
Yeah.
Good for us.
Good for us.
Ultra high frequency.
That is true.
But I think what most people will know this movie as is it's the one and only Weird Al movie.
Yeah.
He's gotten to make a couple shows, but I think this is his only
His
feature,
only-
right?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
So
That enshrines his sense of humor.
Right, it really is Weird Al's movie.
Yeah, also directed by Jay Levy, who I looked up and like the only thing to his name is this, and he's one of Weird Al's
Wow.
best friends. So I still think
He also
it's like
is,
a Weird Al joint.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
Gandhi in Gandhi 2.
Oh,
Jay
is that
Levy?
the guy? Yeah.
The director is the actor.
Gandhi too.
Direct. It's like a Stan Lee cameo if you were a major
Yeah.
distracting role.
It's super distracting and wonderful.
Speaking of distracting, could a movie star more people who I don't like anymore?
Real?
That's
oh.
true.
Oh yeah. Who is so?
Victoria Jackson
Right.
famously said, "Are
Yes.
any rape victims who abort their babies are murderers?"
Yep.
Michael Richards.
Michael Richards said something so horrible we can't repeat it.
Yeah.
Yes, it is
word.
full of people who were once like pedestals of comedy, and
Comedy,
have
yeah.
just fallen.
Yeah.
And you know the guy
yeah.
who plays R.J. Fletcher, Kevin McCarthy. He's probably dead by now, but you know he's an asshole, right? He just looks like one.
Well, that's so the villain in this movie. Let's start there. That's a good way in.
Yeah.
Is he in other things? For some reason, I didn't IMDb
I don't
him.
know
I didn't
him
either.
but he has like such a memorable face.
It looks like Sidney J. Musburger from Hudsucker Proxy if he just had the shit beaten out of him, and the director was like, "Don't act, Paul Newman. Stop acting.
Yeah.
just be be evil."
When he laughs, it's like the best villain laugh of
It's
anything.
great.
It's
Yeah.
so great when he just takes so much joy in destroying their lives the whole movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not subtle. It reminded me a lot of Mom from Futurama because he's got 3 imbecile sons
That's true.
I don't think he ever does a triple slap, but just like ignorant them.
Yeah.
They're like, here's your Rolex,
Daddy.
And then what's that?
When he's at the end.
His comeuppance. Okay, so now things are going to sour because I want you guys to talk about your connection to the movie. I have a deep connection to the movie too, but I don't want to go first because mine's going to be negative.
Oh, really?
Dang.
I totally...
You go first, Abe.
Yeah,
Your
well, I
face is
just
lighting up.
I just want to say one thing, which is I totally thought you were gonna love this movie because it reminds me. It's so reminiscent of like the joke ratio and the type of joke as something like Freaked, which we covered on this podcast. That is,
Have you seen Freak?
like
No,
one of his
I haven't.
favorite movies. It's like slap. It's just like sketch
Airplane.
the movie.
Yeah.
And this one is so I grew up on it. I had a VHS tape of it.
I threw up on it.
I threw up on it.
Hot takes.
No, this is my like I think I watched it like dozens of times as a kid.
Yeah. I think every kid watches the movies dozens of times.
Right.
Because
I remember
you just
I
put
watched
it in again.
like Twister like 800
Yeah.
times, and I wanted to be a meteorologist and stuff. But this movie, I didn't realize how important it was to my like the narrative of comedy in my life. Like every time, because I'd taken so much distance away from it and like hadn't seen it for like 15 years plus, I seriously looked at it like, oh my God, I've made that joke like in joke room, like pitches and stuff like that, or just in writers' rooms dozens of times, and I thought I had made it up. No, it's like the same kind of.
Yeah.
One time we
No,
were
like
in the writers'
stealing
room
jokes.
and Abe just started singing Beverly, and we're like, Abe, you didn't make that up, and he's like,
Yeah.
I got something, guys.
Let me follow this. Let me go with this.
It's just the slapstick nature of it. That's, I guess, what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And I love this movie, and it was a joy to rewatch it again because I didn't realize how much I loved it.
Yeah. In a similar vein, the thing that stuck out most to me was like just the joy that it exuded and that Weird Al like exudes. And that's what I realized. I was like, oh, like mostly when I'm joking, I like I'm laughing at it or I'm like do it like with a smile. You know, there's just like I don't know. And I was like, oh, that is just from Weird Al because he's just like one of the nicest comedians, like one of the nicest people who are funny. And yeah, that was the thing that still rang true for me. There was only one joke that made me cringe, and I was expecting.
Oh, spill it.
It was when they're in the supplies.
Oh yeah, that's
That
an
was like-
old racist joke my dad used to tell.
Really?
Like literally
Wow.
tell. Where like they hire the guy to go in a
Yeah.
cave and he never comes
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I
Some
think.
old chestnuts in here.
Some old,
Cool.
Asian stereotypes.
Yeah.
Ooh. But yeah, but like besides that, I thought it just came from like such a good place of
Yeah.
like yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we covered the. Well, no, you guys like it, so I guess I
I
can't
wanna
make
hear
this
yours.
metaphor.
Spill the beans.
No,
Yeah.
I love the movie just as much as a child,
Yeah.
and hadn't seen it for 15 years,
Uh-huh.
and did that thing where I'm watching it as an adult now and realize, oh, it's not good. It just doesn't hold up.
Aw.
It's not good.
It's
Like you're right
comedy's
about
moved on from it, but it's still good for its time. You have to watch it for its time.
I guess, but like certain things, like I don't know why they all have the word freak in them, but freaked and freakazoid.
Right.
If Freakazoid's pretty old at this point, and I still laugh out loud every couple minutes. And I guess UHF, it does have the joke density, and as a kid, I loved it. But I do think watching it with adult eyes, who's like a comedy snob adult eyes, it's like when you watch Monty Python's Flying Circus front to back, and you're like, oh, the selected things I remember are good, but I don't want to watch all of this.
I think that's true.
The guys, we were talking about the dumb son, his comeuppance is falling in a mud puddle, and then his face gets muddy.
Yeah.
And to me, these are like, the jokes are too low-hanging fruit. They pass a gargoyle, and the joke is that the gargoyle's face is silly, like it's sticking its tongue out.
Right, yeah. But that's Weird Al, though. Weird Al is just silly.
I guess what I'm getting at is, and we covered The Burbs recently.
Right.
And I felt the same way about that movie, but then Tom Hanks
Interesting.
within it, which is, I think Weird Al is one of the most underrated talents walking the face of the earth because of not only his music, but the intense thought behind his music videos. So even by Weird Al standards, I just don't. He's still a really good comedic actor and charming as hell. I agree with Maggie, but I don't think this is like the crown jewel in Weird Al's pantheon I want it to be.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I want him to have another movie.
Yeah,
I
one
agree.
definitely great. I would, yes.
There's
I don't know. I really liked it. To me, the performances, I think, really strung together the low-hanging fruit jokes.
Sure.
Which there definitely are. But also his music does have that.
Yeah.
His music has it, but when it's structured and like zipping by and there's...
Well, I think this movie accomplished that.
I guess. Yeah. Maybe
And,
it did, but...
Yeah, the way
for
that
some
it
reason, the
handled
music-
both having a plot while still being like a sketch movie,
Right.
I also thought that was admirable, especially for the time. Because I was like, to make the conscious decision to have a whole story while also packing as many bits as possible, I was like, yeah. Fucking, that was super smart, Weird Al. You could have your cake and eat it too, and have a full movie, and have as much weird stuff in it as you want, and have an ensemble cast. That was the other thing. I was like, Weird Al got his own movie and then made an ensemble movie. He didn't make it about
I
himself.
thought it was weird that the Stanley Spadowski, played by Michael Richards, is the one whose innate talent shines so brightly that the station becomes a hit.
He's like a
Yeah.
It's
hero.
weird that Weird Al didn't showcase his own. Like, you'd think it would be that George discovers he's great at parody music. So it's almost, I agree. Thought it was like weirdly humble that he chose a story where someone's raw talent finally wins and he made it not him.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't want to put the story on a pedestal because it's still, we got to raise 75 grand before tomorrow.
That's all it is. That's all it is. Yeah, I mean, if
know.
you say it like that
And I'm
too,
saying-
like Jaws is, there's a shark out there.
Which is way fewer films are that than we got to get 75 grand by tomorrow.
That's true.
I do think Jaws is less cliche.
Yeah.
No, it is cliche.
But man, I can stop being a sourpuss. So
no,
like,
it's fine.
moments that did get me. Weird Al's dead face as he's Rambo and he's vibrating.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Right. Yeah, when he's screaming, just
He's vibrating from firing the machine gun.
Right.
And he keeps cutting away and cutting back. And sometimes when it cuts back, his face is like contorted in a Sylvester Stallone.
right.
But sometimes he's doing dead fish face, which I always find funny.
Right, yeah, exactly. And there's just, I don't know, there's just, for how old it is, like the idea of him catching the bullet and then blowing out like a machine gun from his mouth and stuff is like, does feel cliche, but I'm like trying to think what predates it. Like it wasn't cliche back then. It's just cliche now. Like
Yeah, things like
whenever
Kentucky
you
Fried
say,
Movie
whenever you say like Simpsons did it, it's still a good joke. It's just now so in the zeitgeist that we can't find it funny.
Yes.
But it's still a solid joke when it comes down
And
to
maybe I'm wrong because there is something magical about music. But I would say Weird Al's sense of humor in his lyrics is somewhat corny. But I
was
feel
gonna
like
say,
UHF
yeah.
is cornier
Then his
than
music.
his music is. I think his
Oh, yeah.
music is more clever than UHF.
I mean,
He does have some stinkies. Some ones that are
Song
like,
lyrics
all right.
or
yeah,
some stinkies.
some stinkies.
why'd you have to go and make me so constipated? That's not the height of sophistication in your mind.
No, it's not. I love. There's a joke that starts off in the introduction of Michael Richards' character that I think is kind of like both of what you're talking about because there's the silly performance element that Stanley Spadowski is,
Jesus.
but also a like kind of fun like joke, like it's a stupid like turn on something that
Yeah.
like and the
Yeah.
example I think of is do you know it's when RJ Fletcher is do you notice anything that's missing from my desk because it's like he needs to have the report
Stapler.
and he says that stapler and it's a good joke
Yeah.
only just because he's so stupid
He's pointing
that
at a
he-
stapler
Yeah.
that is
that's
there.
already there
Right,
yeah
right.
but it's also just his I mean, it's just like, be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when he says that later on the ad. Like, it's just him being charismatic. That's all
Yeah.
it is. And that's what I like about this movie. It kind of marries those two things.
Couched around a bunch of what are essentially the same thing the critic would do, one-off
Right.
movie parodies. And there were some solid ones in there. Did anyone else think it was weird that there's one and only one full Weird Al song, but they play it in full,
Yes!
but not
Yeah.
until you're half an hour into the movie,
Yes.
and then there's no more Weird Al music after
Yeah,
that?
I thought it would be
That's
a
weird.
lot
Yeah.
more musical.
I do love the like
Or not at all musical.
Yeah.
Right.
That is weird. He should get a musical. Seeing that like early that 80s like CGI and knowing that they spent all that money doing that, recreating that music video
Yeah.
shot for shot.
It
Just
was
because.
probably a centerpiece of their budget was doing
Yeah,
that
doing
crappy
that.
music video.
Right.
And having just like a 3D Ched Clampett.
Right. Yeah.
What?
It's
I didn't confirm this because obviously that song you can now get on albums and stuff, but was that how this movie was? Like, did that song premiere in this movie?
I
Does anyone
think
know?
so.
I
think
don't know. No, I didn't.
No?
It didn't?
It had already been a hit because when Weird Al actually they tried to get the rights to it, the Dire Straits said that we'll allow you to use it, but I have to do the guitar part.
Which it really is Mark Knopfler
Right.
playing guitar.
Yeah, it's actually Knopfler
Wow.
playing on the movies
And
version.
it sounds
sounds
I love
super
Dire
good.
Straits. That's a different podcast.
It sounds
The
super
man's
good.
too
I'm like,
strong.
because I read that and then I heard it and I was like, yeah, it's probably because he's like a musician and he was like, they're gonna fuck it up. And I've listened to Weird Al's music,
Yeah.
and it's like good, but not like perfect.
Right. And maybe he also
I
likes
think
Weird
it's
Al. I don't know.
impressively close considering he's like a multi-instrumentalist and everything. But I agree that you could be at the point where you're like, yeah, but I'm Mark Knopfler.
Yeah.
I could still flatter myself that I'm better than him at
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
own riff.
Like
Yeah.
that hammer-on is just
But
so
I don't
tasty.
Think, but we can't underplay how good
These
Weird
cuts.
Al is at mimicking other people's
Oh,
sounds.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the parodies he's started doing every album that are clearly group parodies. Like you mentioned Albuquerque, which I think is the one that's a Frank Zappa sound-alike, or I might be conflating two. He's done Beach Boys sound-alike Pancreas. He's done They Might Be Giants sound-alike, and Devo one. It's fucking like Dare to Be Stupid is as good as real
Right.
Devo songs, who are one of my favorite bands.
And that's what I think in this movie, because there's at one point when they're getting a little bit more success as Channel 62, and it's like some midway through the movie, and he has a magnet on like a whiteboard, and he's putting up all the shows. Did you pause that and read them? Because it's kind of like the cabin in the woods joke.
It's like
with-
you can-
there,
yeah.
and it's exactly
How
that type
so?
of thing. Like it's Weird Al doing parodies of things. Like I'll read some of like "Leave It to Bigfoot," "Name That Stain."
Name that stain.
I like that one. There's just a bunch of Wonderful World of Phlegm, which is great.
What's that have to do with Cabin in the Woods, though?
No, just the image. Not,
Oh, gotcha,
like,
okay.
I
Okay,
was
you're just
trying to-
refreshing.
I was drawing a parallel to the idea that just like when he does mock comedy for albums, he's just doing it in this movie with TV shows.
I agree.
Yeah.
I was just really hoping you're about to drop a conspiracy theory where
it's
there's like
secret.
details
connected
that
universe.
he's controlling the universe.
Whoa.
And Philo, because Philo turns out to be a claymation alien. So
I love
Right, Philo, that's the greatest. He
yeah.
just, I must go back now. All right.
All right. Okay,
also
bye.
This movie also uses the convention that they record the villain going, "But I'm evil. I hate everyone."
Yeah.
And then they play it in public. Dirty jobs,
Ball of
also dirty
dog
work.
snot.
Yeah. Weirdly though, I did feel like a lot of tension in the last
Did you
like
now?
yes, I did. I know. I mean, okay, to be fair, as you know, Michael is talking that he doesn't like it. I did write down some things I was like, what? They do Close Encounters reference that leads to nothing. It just ends
It's
the
just
scene.
potato. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mashed potatoes.
And I was
It's
like,
just potatoes.
what? There's a couple times where like scenes just like peter out, but yeah, I don't know. I really felt it like getting thick at the end. I don't know. First, like
So how did you handle like Hereditary? Let's say.
Hereditary was fun. Oh, that I actually didn't like Hereditary.
Like, but was it scary to you, or were you like,
No.
there's no
No.
local TV station at risk. These are not high stakes.
Wheel of Fish.
Real fish, special.
Wheel of Fish.
I remember.
Oh.
I think the one that the shine came off the most to me is as a kid. I thought Warehouse of Spatulas was so funny,
I wrote that down.
and now
Such-
I'm like,
it's still
it's
good.
kind of it's a joke.
It's not that funny, but it's still like excellently well done.
Yeah.
But that joke. So I'm not saying I don't like it. I love the movie in spite of, I think, have like making some of these observations.
Yeah.
Just like well, that's not true though, because we covered 40-Year-Old Virgin, and I was like, just like you can like something in spite of being dated, but 40-Year-Old Virgin actually sucks on retrospect. It's like, you're like, whoa, it's so bad.
Yeah.
It's a big piece of shit.
But yeah, back to this. Yeah, it's Weird Al, right? So there's going to be poodles. Bowls of slime. Like he's a Nickelodeon guy. I'll tell you, the first time when he finally got me to break my like chip on the shoulder is when it cuts to him for the first time in the restaurant, and it's pure acting magic. It's like his signature move, and someone's like, "Hey Al," or George, and he goes, "Hey!" like so loudly and forcefully that he sprays mustard on everyone. Yeah.
Right.
Then I was like, now I'm in it. Okay.
Yeah, it's Weird Al now. And then he puts Twinkie. Or that's earlier. The Twinkie with a hot dog.
Yeah.
Oh,
cheese.
yeah. and the
I totally thought
cheese.
that would be something that you would try.
I tried that as a kid. I did try that as a kid. Did you not?
No, I didn't.
Oh, no.
It's just all the most machine-made
Did you
products.
try any foods that you saw in a movie to see if it would work?
No. Maybe. No.
I don't know.
I was just hearing about some sitcom or dramedy where someone drinks milk and Pepsi,
Ew.
and someone was saying that it's
I
pretty
definitely
good.
have laughed at It's Always Sunny things like milk steak and stuff, but I would never try 'em.
And that's because that one, there's not enough
They're
details
always
to go
disgusting.
on.
Yeah.
But online, there's a recipe for the Charlie sandwich, which I haven't made, but I
chocolate
want
on
to.
the inside. I
Butter
forget.
on the outside, cheese on the outside,
Right.
butter on the inside.
There's that. There's also that web show that's called Binging with Babish, I want to say,
And
he
Yeah.
creates
Front
meticulously
shows
what he can
Wow.
extrapolate because he's a professional chef.
Damn.
I think they've done that.
I got a perfect finale episode from Hitchhiker's Guide. It's called the something Gargle Blaster.
Yeah, the gargle. Yeah, it's got a long name because it's Douglas Adams. So.
Yeah, but it involves getting your brain smashed out with a wedge of lemon wrapped around a
Right,
gold brick.
All right,
So that's a
sign me
good.
up.
That's a good
That's
finale.
because you're dead after that.
Exactly. So yeah, Channel 8, just like in real life, is threatened by the ratings. Of,
Right.
No, I won't recap the
I
plot.
love it.
It's not that kind of movie.
No, I mean
not.
it's just like
However,
a Billy
it-
Madison or
yeah.
something like
It
that.
is.
But also,
Oh, that's a good
it's
comparison.
like a gathering of the
Or
weirdos,
Happy
and
Gilmore.
like, yeah,
They are
I
fucking
actually
weird.
don't. Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
more weird than. Well, no, Billy Madison's really fucking weird.
Yeah,
But I
didn't
would
like
say
Billy
it's more
Madison.
ensemble. Maggie's right. Like,
Yeah.
it's
And look, Fran is great. I always
Fran
forget.
Drescher, yeah.
Oh, she's amazing.
Billy
do you guys,
Barty.
Do you guys want to know the?
Yeah.
Well, do you guys want to
Yeah.
know the historical background of this movie? Not this movie in particular, but like why this movie was made, like what the message of the movie was, because it was a different time back then in terms of cable wasn't really a thing yet.
Right.
It had just started being a thing. And so it's the story about there was a legislation called FinCEN in like the late 70s, I want to say, that was basically you can't, like they cited at one point in the movie, isn't it illegal to own two
Yeah.
like affiliates in one town or something like that?
After
And he's like,
Hearst ruined it for everyone.
yeah, it's because NBC, the big three as they're known, still kind of, but ABC, NBC, and CBS
And Michael.
were starbucking all of local news outlets and local whatevers,
Yeah.
just buying the buildings, knocking
Yeah.
into parking lots if they wanted to, just so they had no competition.
Or it just becomes
in
an
areas-
affiliate
in
that
areas.
rebroadcasts NBC's
Right,
feed.
right.
Yeah.
So this is definitely like small business owners taking it
Right.
to the man kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
I
and
really
the moral
felt that.
Right.
I mean, he says it at the exact moment that screenwriting books say you're supposed to say it, I think.
Right.
10
Yeah,
minutes
I
in,
do.
it's like, there's nothing wrong with imagination, Bob.
Yeah.
We could use more unbridled imagination in
Right,
this
right.
world.
So they're making him into a hero because he's like a man of the community. He, just
Yeah.
even the
Yeah.
stupids and the weirds are on board with his stuff. Like the people in the bar enjoying
Yeah.
Stanley Spadowski for the first time
That's-
it plays is so magical
so
and
pure.
The
weird.
context is
Yeah.
Stanley Spadowski starts to give a speech that relates life to his mop because that's mostly what he likes to talk about. and like says something that doesn't mean anything, but they play inspirational music anyway, and it cuts to everyone in the town with tears in their eyes.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
funny.
It's just like it's
like,
Simpsons.
If there's a stain, you just gotta keep doing it.
And then it ends with
Sometimes you gotta get down with your brush and you gotta keep going.
And he goes,
these
"Oh,
floors
that's
are as dirty as hell, and I won't take it anymore.
network reference.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if that doesn't work, you're getting down, then you stand up. And it's like, oh, they're both good. Getting down and standing up.
And
They're
this
both
is a guy
inspirational.
who's like, when he's kidnapped, is like, let's do a guessing game. I'm thinking of something orange.
It almost has
It's
that.
an orange.
Have you seen Clifford with Martin Short? It was on Comedy Central nonstop.
It's
At
just
a certain
that
period.
Yeah, it's an old.
No, it's Stanley Spadowski has that feeling where you just got to accept it's a cartoon world because people would be like, "Are you okay, sir? Do you have the mental faculties to be here?
Right.
Is there a caretaker that we need to get for you?"
Right, yeah.
Oh.
Right.
He
Yeah.
acts like a child.
How does
Yeah.
he have rent, pay rent?
Yeah.
Like, how does he live? He can't live.
Yeah.
And they really don't talk about it.
My mom walked out of this movie, by the way. Speaking of
Really?
She
Whoa.
had never seen it, and I was watching it at my folks' place in prep for this, and she watched it with me, and she loved it. So I think that's like, she has a corny sense of humor, and she was
Yeah.
laughing every 3 minutes, and like, how come you never showed me this movie before? Then when Raoul's Animal Kingdom starts killing
Oh, it's
dog
killing.
after dog after dog,
To just
she was like, I can't keep watching this.
And that's such a
So it's
good
actually
bit,
'cause it's-
though.
I know.
Oh, man.
I really like
he's
that
just
bit.
so sad, and there's a pile of dogs.
It is
Pile
unusually.
of dogs.
It's more grim than. First of all, Weird Al doesn't shy away from a poodle joke. This we know.
This we know.
But usually he doesn't go so grim as to cut outside and you see a pile
Yeah.
of dog corpses.
I love
That's
that
what
he
did
did
it.
it.
True.
That's what did it.
That's true.
I love it. I feel like that was him pushing his buttons a little bit. I was like, wow, you.
He
My
wanted,
favorite joke
he
in the-
wanted a hard R. They
Yeah,
wouldn't give it to
yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah,
Like he was incapable of giving Weird Al a hard R.
That's why at the end he just goes, Terry, I fucking love the fucking shit out of
Shit
you.
ass, and then he poops.
Let's go fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does have, I obviously can't recreate it, but he has this signature yell that is, I've never heard any other actor
It's
do that
a
exact.
screech.
It's a screech from Saved by the Bell. No, it's like a unique screech that's funny it is funny every time.
Yeah.
Especially because he has the ability to go from talking normally to doing it instantaneously and then snapping back. It'll just be like 2 words in the sentence
Right.
are this crazy screech that he's so good at.
And that was just because at this time, because like by 1985, Weird Al had had some success with his music, and it took him a while to get this movie off the ground because I think it was conceived of like earlier than that. And they were just like, okay, you're now big enough that we
Right,
can
to do
actually
it.
make this movie. So he had been working on this movie for a long time.
Okay. Yeah, I wanna like force him to do another one now and see what
I
happens.
know.
Because he's just as bankable now. Like he went through.
Even more so. I mean, another generation knows who he is. At least kids younger than me now do because
I
of
agree.
his last album.
Yeah. Mandatory fun. And it
Yeah.
feels like to me he went the way society went. Like I can't get through a whole Weird Al podcast without talking about Alan Sherman, who I love equally. Maggie, do you know Alan Sherman? So Weird Al Yankovic is after a polka guy he admires, an accordionist.
The mighty Yankovic.
But Al is after Alan Sherman, who was literally, he is Weird Al. Like,
Yeah.
it's like Obi-Wan and Luke. Alan Sherman did exactly what he does in like the 40s and 50s with big band music and songs that I'll hear the song and think it's funny, but have to look up. And they're like, yeah, that was a really famous song in 1938.
Right.
And this is a parody of that song. Or he'll do like a musical parody of Frere Jacques, like songs everyone knows. But they are funny. And he was actually fundamental to my, because jokes have gotten more and more sophisticated as time goes on, I think your average person listening to Alan Sherman would be like, it's like watching an old black and white movie.
Right.
Like,
It's
it's a
like,
bit of like
over
a
the
process.
top.
But for me, it taught me the rudimentary joke structures.
Yeah.
And then Weird Al just like, it's so interesting how at any given time there's only one really famous parody musician. And
Yeah.
I feel like Weird Al will one day like pass the mantle to another person named Al. like
yeah,
or like
pass it
Miles
down.
Morales
Yeah.
or something will become.
it's just like Time Lord rules,
Right.
like
Yeah.
Doctor Who.
And they're always
Weird
there,
Al.
and they just go with however society goes. Because I remember when I was a kid, Weird Al was cool, and it was cool to like Weird Al because you were kind of
You were never cool.
pissing off your parents,
You
being
were never
subversive.
cool. Yeah.
Then his sales numbers reflect this. There was this long period where we tried to be cool, like it was cool to try to be cool in the 90s, like Sonic the Hedgehog vibe, wearing sunglasses and being
Yeah.
radical.
Yeah.
And during that time, there's nothing lamer than how like genuine and full of heart and straightforward Weird Al is.
Yeah.
So there was like a decade where he was so uncool to like Weird Al, and his sales like matched that. And now I feel like today we're in a post-cool world.
We're back.
Where people don't super care. Everyone's so fragmented. It's like, I don't know, just what are you into?
Yeah.
That you're allowed to like Weird Al again, and I'm just
Yeah.
happy. So I bet he could get a budget together for a new movie, is my point.
I wonder about that because
Okay.
I mean, like, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I
No.
mean, like, I'm sure you could do like a Kickstarter and it would work. But
I
even
mean,
when this movie was
yeah,
made, they made it for
traditional.
like $5 million and they got back like $6 million.
And they had Philo Farnsworth, the inventor of television, in the movie. You'd think they'd get a deal.
You think they got
Yeah, I also don't know if like that's what Weird Al would want to do with his time and his life.
Oh,
Well,
feature?
I-
Really?
Yeah, I really don't. He
Probably.
seems. Yeah.
He seems to do exactly what he wants.
He seems to do exactly what I
so
want.
like
so I
whatever
just
he's
don't
doing
know.
is probably what he wants to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Well, it's talking about self-indulgence. Did you guys know about his most recent tour?
Yeah,
No.
his one where he
Awesome.
just
What's new
sings
in the-
serious music.
It's the ill-advised self-indulgent vanity tour.
Yeah.
And it's like all different or like unplugged mixes of stuff, but it's primarily Weird Al originals. And I know you were a real Weird Al fan back in the day because you ultimately realized you're like, oh, I get it. It goes parody, original, parody, original, parody, original, and then the end is a 10-minute sound-alike parody. That's like the structure of most of his albums. And you were either the type Weird Al fan who knew the parody songs that were big on the radio because you liked pop music, or you're the type Weird Al fan who was memorizing Hardware Store and shit.
the real Weird Al.
Real
fan.
Al songs.
Yeah.
And saying like, no, but he's actually like quite an accomplished musician, people. Which I was saying to my
That is
friends
so
at
fucking
lunch.
funny. That is so funny. That is so. I've never heard a fact on this podcast that is so enthusiastically Michael than that.
That I
That you
I
know
forced
that
my
and
friends
believe
to
that.
listen to
Yeah.
Hardware and Store and be like, do you see why this track is just as good as
Yeah.
the Avril Lavigne parody? Do you see that?
Do you see it, man?
Yeah, but like, do you get it?
There's also Bowling for Burgers.
We're just naming those.
Strip Solitaire is funny. That's a funny joke in concept and execution. Strip Solitaire.
Underwater bingo for teens.
Celebrity Mud Wrestling with Mikhail Gorbachev.
The wonderful or fun with dirt.
Fun with dirt and fun with dirt.
I liked
Druids on parade.
but again I think it's
Druids on
the
parade.
it's a screech that makes it. Town Talk with George, which is just a
Right.
mashup of like Donahue and Springer. But Geraldo famously did the thing where he revealed Al Capone's vault, thinking there'd be a bunch of crazy shit inside, and there was nothing.
Oh yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
famous news moment for you kids out there. So in this, he finds Saddam Hussein's glove box, I think, and he goes, "Just as we thought, roll man."
Yeah, that's the yell. That's the screech that he does.
Oh.
That's why I thought it was like freaked as like the in the Jerry Springer show, Town Talk, they had the like it's just a bunch of different people that make no
A
sense
KKK
together.
Grand
Yeah.
Wizard, a
Yeah,
little girl
a
with
little
pigtails.
girl who's like clearly a murderer, and they're all like all supposed to be like horrible people, and like at one point someone hits the KKK guy with a chair and his head just crumples, like it's like he has no head. It's like I think they were trying to, like you can tell there was the inner workings of like it's KKK but it's also ghosts. and it's not made
You saying
explicit.
there's no one inside the costume?
I don't know what they're supposed to say. I don't know what he's trying to say. I don't know what the joke
Yeah.
is. But it's clear they're like one of them was like, it would be funny if it didn't
It
have
just
a head.
crumpled.
Why? I don't know, because he's kind of like a ghost or something. Because like what?
Maybe.
It's
Yeah.
inexplicable. The random tangents of comedy that this team will do.
It's weird. I've been rewatching like SpongeBob a lot lately, and it struck me as like very similar, very just like upbeat and like tangents that don't really lead anywhere, and so fast paced that you can't really like you don't have
SpongeBob, I
time to
think, does
criticize
hold
it.
up. Not that I mean, I'm calling out parts I love.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Treasure Sierra Madre joke that is arguably as offensive as the supplies joke. So I don't know if I'm allowed to like it.
Which one
But
is that?
they're delivering badgers to Raul.
Right.
And he says, we don't need no stinking
Oh
badgers.
yeah.
Right.
Which is a mix between a pun and mocking someone's accent. Tough call.
Tough call.
call.
It's tough. Yeah. Tough
call.
Yeah.
But it's
Nature's-
clearly not coming from a place of hate.
Yeah. That's
It's
the one
just
thing that I
silly.
like. You know.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I do want to underscore jokes that I'm like, I did tip my hat to that joke. The idea of a mortuary where at the end of the ad
The
they
salad
go,
bar.
and don't forget we've just added our new salad bar, and it's just a picture of people trying to eat salad, but they clearly just came from a funeral and they're like all depressed.
I also like how it shows like what other funeral homes are, and there's just like legs sticking up from the
Yeah.
ground.
They're like,
and
don't
stuff.
use a cut rate
Yeah.
funeral
Yeah.
home. Yeah. I think my favorite joke in the whole movie now as an adult is the blind houseless gentleman trying to solve the Rubik's Cube on the bench. He's just continuously changing the Rubik's Cube, handing it to his friend and saying, is that it?
No.
No, not yet.
Oh man. Yeah.
Have you seen Shakes the Clown, Maggie?
No.
That's another. So now that Freaks finally got out of my system, that's the next one I'm going to keep pushing. Because if people don't know, Abe and I populate a list of movies for people to pick from, and then the guests pick. That's been on the list from the beginning, but I don't know that anyone will ever pick it because they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And it's Bobcat, right?
It's Bobcat Goldthwait, and it has kind of this tone if it were much filthier. It's also got Robin Williams and Adam Sandler, and it's really fucking funny. Oh, and Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants, to bring it full circle. And Tom Kenny's the villain in it, and he destroys. He's amazing.
Damn.
It takes place in a universe where clown is like a very popular job. So like there's like clown bars where all the clowns go and drink, and if a clown sees a mime in the street or vice versa, they get in a rumble. It's like the
Yeah.
Anchorman of clown movies.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah.
You got your notes. What are
I
the
see notes.
I
Yeah, I see you
do.
flipping.
Yeah,
You
I
haven't
don't know,
talked
guys.
enough.
I just like it. This really like tickled a lot of part. Like I don't know. It just felt so like sweet from beginning to end in a
Sure.
way. Like the characters are also like empathetic.
It's really
and
playful and
It's really playful.
childlike
It's
in some ways.
childlike.
Terry's not much of anything. I think it has that classic problem of like,
yeah.
there's the girlfriend character that's just the girlfriend. Yeah.
Yeah, and they like she's not in it. Victoria Jackson's barely in it because one of the main arcs is that like you
They
got to
broke
get your
up.
life
Yeah.
together, and so she's there
Right.
for just a little bit of Act 1. And then just Act 3. That's all she really is there for. So.
Although, too, when I was watching it, I was like, this is the only like balloons in the apartment scene that I buy. I was like, that is impressive. I buy that she actually likes it. I buy that like he would, do that to get her back. And I thought it was sweet instead of like weird or creepy.
Yeah.
That was the only time that it was like ever worked for me in any movie ever.
Have you seen Monkey Bone?
What? No.
Monkey Bone? You
No.
haven't seen it. Okay, then we don't have
No.
to fight about it.
Yeah. Okay. So do
Because I think
yeah.
when she comes home and finds the balloons Brendan Fraser left after he dies, which is in the first 10 minutes, so I'm not spoiling the movie. She comes home and finds that he had set up a thing for her, but he's dead now, and she comes home and finds it.
shit.
It's pretty fucking effective, I think.
Yeah.
It's a great
Yeah.
scene, yeah.
'Cause she
Yeah.
just has the remnants of his existence.
Of how creative he was.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then you get Monkey Bone.
I love Monkey Bone. That's another one we're going to force someone to do eventually. But
yeah.
Yeah,
know.
so many classic tropes put together. to win the girl back, you got to get your life together finally because you're a slacker.
But also, I noticed she was the one who goes to the boss, and that leads to them filming his confession. So I was like, that felt very strategic to me, that they have the girlfriend do that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have won in the end.
She should be involved in a functional way. That's good.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, that's like a conscious decision to try and include.
And of course, Fran she's there to do comedy just like the whole ensemble.
Yeah, Fran Drescher.
Which is good. I do think the Billy Barty bit is a solid, again, it's like a bit about a topic that could be offensive, but I think they do things so well that it's like, this is, I think jokes are a formula, and it's a long thing that I think all comedians are struggling with. But to decide whether something's offensive when it's like vague.
Yeah.
I like the Billy Barty bit, which is that if you had a little person as your news cameraman, the camera angle would look funny. That's all. Right. That's the bit. And I think that she wants to be a news anchor. Billy Barty is her on the field cameraman.
Yeah, and she like didn't blink an eye when he showed up with the camera. She's like, "Okay, let's go." Right. Like that's the way to do that joke. Is
and the only one who looks at it like it's weird is the villain, who's like, "What's with this?"
Yeah,
right. Like, other channel. Yeah.
Everyone else
like
embraces embraces everyone for just being who they are. You know.
Yeah.
I do think that there's a few jokes that like get around it in a strange way, like the one with Raul when they're just like, I thought you hired him. So there's just a crazy
he's also a crazy guy. That excuses a lot of his
So he's a murderous crazy guy who just infiltrates and they're just like, it's fine.
Yeah, how do you get on the air?
And that's it. Yeah,
they don't need to explain, obviously.
There's no camera, like it actually cut that. There's a editing joke in that commercial is that the camera switches and looks to where the camera would be because he's just leaving it. Right? So it's like, it's this weird.
It's like, how do you even make this?
Fever dream. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Oh, I love right in the middle of. He's basically just soft improving around true things about animals. Mm-hmm. But right in the middle, he throws in that if you lick a turtle and throw it on the ceiling, it'll stick. And he does it, and it just leaves frame and stays gone. But I was thinking, I bet some kid killed their turtle after watching UHF. Doesn't anyone think that must have happened?
I hope not.
I bet that has
I
to
remember
have
I never had
happened.
access to turtles, but I remember thinking that was true after seeing UHF.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Nature's suction cup.
Yeah, if they... I wonder about that because, like, it's not even like a hard R, but that's like fodder for, the Tipper Gores of the world who are like... You cannot allow, any violence whatsoever on movies. Mm-hmm. It's not a violent sequence.
It's more Looney Tunes.
It's Looney Tunes.
It's just the kids are fucking stupid.
Yeah.
That's all
it's
I'm
like
really
that
saying.
Onion article. There's that Onion article that's like, the headline is 2 or 3 shitty kids ruin something for everyone else.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's a joke usually only becomes dangerous when someone who's too dumb to understand that it's a joke gets confused.
Right.
That's when like problems happen from comedy.
Like there's a chainsaw that I love warning labels that tell a very clear story. There's a chainsaw that has...
For external use only?
No, well, it says, do not use chainsaw on your genitals.
What?
I think it's a joke. I think it's a joke, but...
But also maybe
also
not.
Terrifying.
Wait, is this in a movie or you saw it in life?
It's a photo on the internet, so it's probably just a photo
on the internet.
It's a joke. It's
an internet photography. I just gotta sorry. I'm gonna be like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, switching back and forth.
That's fine.
Apropos of nothing, Deus Ex Machina. RJ's station is also like he's already defeated. But then his station is taken off the air because the FCC just decides that they don't like him
just
anymore.
Like, I seen what you've been up to.
His son falls into a mud puddle, and then an old lady comes and kicks him in the nuts.
The guy trips him, though. It's the cameraman who's getting his revenge because he was tripped earlier. So he trips.
And then he doesn't get his Rolex.
Right, Billy Barty was tripped earlier. That's all. He only does 2 things. Gets tripped, and then gets that sweet trip revenge. But I just think it's funny that... any movie where the villains come up and says an old lady kicks them in the nuts, you're like, this is an 80s movie.
Right. And he really...
I believe she starts rapping.
And he really milks it, doesn't he? Like, I was
like... dude, the actor...
It looks like he's in a tremendous amount of pain. Like, it's very, very terrifying.
I thought the acting was great in this film. That was the other thing. I was like, I will agree with you. There were a lot of times I was like, this movie's about to lose me because it's just like not funny for periods.
There's a corniness threshold.
Yeah, and
Right.
it crosses it.
Where you're
But
like,
the three of us
yeah.
are pretty like silly.
I
Like,
am silly, but even I was sometimes wanted to say to the movie like, "Come on, Dad!" Like it's just that joke was dumb.
I'm thinking of like almost most of my. Maybe I'll throw Cody into our group as well. But like most of the comedians that we've worked with for a long time would all just not care for this movie. Like Soren does not care for this movie. I'm pretty sure. Dan O'Brien wouldn't care for it either.
But they don't like Beekman's World either, and I think that's a similar
I don't know
thing.
what Beekman's World is.
Maggie, do you know Beekman's World? Move on then. Move right on. It's the Pepsi to Bill Nye the Science Guy's Coke. It's far superior.
Oh,
He reminds me of
superior.
Weird Al a lot, actually. Beekman, ably played by Paul Zaloom.
Yeah. Yeah, because I didn't really grow up with television.
You missed all the
I miss a
shows,
lot of
yeah.
shows, and so when someone says something and I'm like, that sounds like a TV show or something, I usually just wait. I'll ask like, what is it, and then I'll just be quiet.
You know Bill Nye the Science Guy, though, right?
I
Just
do know
through
Bill Nye
osmosis,
through school.
Oh, you went to school with Bill Nye?
Yeah, me and him are home.
Through school,
Yeah.
Sat in front of me in
Same
homeroom.
class,
Yeah.
baby. No, yeah, I don't know what. So I lost a lot of references about, like, I just assume when people at like telethons are a thing in movies, I'm just like, there's been telethons then. There must have been telethons.
there were.
Yeah.
Jay Lewis did one every year for many years.
And then those pop culture blind spots over time.
Yeah.
Blend together.
Phil-
Well,
yeah.
no, they get plugged in.
Okay. All right.
And then they're like, "Abe, did you know telethons were a thing?" I'm
And you're
like, "Now I
fucking
did."
Of course,
Wow.
idiot. I always knew that.
But
Shut
not
up.
before 19.
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
Is there any notable filmmaking in this film?
not at all.
No.
Okay, that's what I thought. It's interesting to me, Abe, that you can enjoy a movie where the filmmaking is like they weren't even trying to make it good, really. Not like good.
Yeah. I also watch like Avengers and stuff. Like that's
There's
would
craft
say,
to the
yeah.
filmmaking.
okay, that's
Or,
different.
like-
There's craft.
Yeah.
Like the production's design senses and like the sets and the costumes.
Yeah.
Those are all impressive. But like story-wise, what's it got going for it? You know?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's like,
Sure.
so what are you going to do with the camera?
I think UHF just also has this unsanitized feeling like the director told the actors, I have no directions for you. Do whatever you're going to do.
It is a
Yeah.
cartoon. Yeah.
And even I even mean like shot size and shot selection. I feel like Jay Levy was like, yep, it's my first movie. Is his head in frame? Like sometimes when it cuts from Indiana Jones back to Indiana Jones, they've radically changed how much fore or aft space the frame gives his head. And you know there's no symbolic meaning. Someone just
Right.
nudged the camera.
Right.
And he was
Yeah.
like, his head's still in frame.
Yep.
So I just want, it's interesting to me that, like, I know some directors, people who really have this cinematographic eye, also like you do, who can't like a movie that is like sloppily shot.
I mean, old movies are sloppy. They really
Yeah.
are. Like now our minds, like when a dolly moves and like
And
has
it's-
a bump or
yeah,
something
we're
like
like,
that,
"That's
we go like, what? And we have all the software to like make it work in post. But mainly it's like, no, you need to have like I'll spend a lot of money to get the machine. This is, gone are the days with the Sam Raimis where you just put a camera on a
Board, yeah.
board and
Yeah.
run, and it looks like crap. And then, but it feels right for some reason because it has this energy behind it. That's something that we talked about in comedy about like the rise of like in the 2000s, the rise of the handheld single camera comedy trope where it's shot like a doc. Or like a documentary,
Right.
And it's
Office,
because
Yeah.
Arrested Development.
because it has this verisimilitude or this like honesty and presence of the camera, but it also has, you now have a cameraman who can zoom on things and like point out little moments or zoom back and get the whole room. And these are also comedic beats. It's something we talked at length
Or
about.
pan over and Jim smirks at
Yeah,
camera.
exactly. Yeah. And it's just like, it's the fill in the blank, like slices of life where you're looking around a room and just no one knows that you're there.
Yeah.
This movie has a little bit of that, not this doc style thing, but like they're pretty fast and loose of when it's supposed to be on TV and when it's not, which makes it kind of interesting because like there's times where it's like, wait, is this supposed to be on TV right now? Like who are like
Right, like Emo Phillips cutting his hand off with a
Right.
table saw.
Right,
Or his thumb on.
yeah.
right, and like why is the angle the way it is? Usually on like the whole sequence with what is it, Bobo
the Clown?
Yeah,
Which is just basically Sideshow Mel and Krusty bit.
right.
Where
But-
he mistreats Bobo
But
for
if you look at it,
amusement of children.
That was part where it
and I
was
don't
losing
think
me. I was like, oh, okay.
I don't think it was just not an active choice. I want to say it's competently made.
Bobo had really
But-
good clown makeup though, didn't he?
Yeah,
Did
he
you
looked
notice how
great.
good
Did
it
you
was?
did you read the on the research I was doing for it? They only did that hitting with the frying pan gag once because
broke his
it
nose?
split his lip open.
Oh, shit.
And they had to reshoot him eating the dog biscuits later because you can't tell. I was looking for it because his entire mouth is red because
Yeah.
of the makeup from being a clown.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But it's like he got seriously injured. And those dog biscuits, by the way, just like anyone who's watching movies and like, oh, that's a horrible thing to eat.
Yeah.
With the exception of Weird Al, who's now a vegetarian, he says because he had to like scarf down like 7 hot dogs for that hot dog and Twinkie scene.
That's what made him become a vegetarian, or like it was a
Someone was
fundamental
making that
moment?
argument,
Yeah.
but I don't. He may have said it in an interview, but I couldn't
Right.
find the interview. But he's now a vegetarian, so he had to do that. But
Right.
and I know that what is
But
like
what
the
are the
worst
dog
things that you've
biscuits?
ever done? Like, because as an actor,
What's the worst
as
thing I've ever
actors,
done?
You guys,
Like jumped in a
for a
freezing
movie.
lake.
1979, Da Nang. I draw a bead on my quarry.
But like, I remember we had to take a photo. It was me, you, and Dan Zimbrowski. Had to take a photo of you chugging alcohol.
Isopropyl alcohol.
Yeah, and we just
Oof.
bought one and cleaned it out like dozens of times, but still couldn't.
and then filled it with water, and I just drank water from it. But it doesn't matter. There's still a lot of isopropyl
like, and we
alcohol
cleaned it
around.
out real nice. It
got
just
really
stayed.
sick.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I could taste everything. Tasted like rubbing alcohol for 2 days.
Oh no.
I was like chugging Mountain Dews, and it tasted like drinking isopropyl alcohol because it was just such a strong flavor.
That's so
But
insane.
it was worth it.
It was worth it.
What,
It was for that photo.
There's
photo.
did you see Mystery
Video.
Team, the Derek comedy
Lo-
movie, Mystery Squad, Mystery Team?
I actually have not seen it.
All right. They have, I think they fish around a clogged toilet. I think someone eats some of the shit.
Oh.
And it's like really, it was tasty. It's fine. Whatever it was. It was like chocolate pudding. It was
Yeah. Most of the time.
Of course you're going to make it something fine.
Right.
Why wouldn't you?
You'll make it fine. The dog biscuits are cookies.
Unless
and,
you like
and the crew eats them after.
Kubrick or something. And you're
Nah,
like, no.
yeah.
He
Or you
must
must be real.
Or
he
you're
must
Weird
eat
Al.
the bucket of buttholes for real.
I mean, he invented the idea that, or I guess the writers invented the idea that it had to be a Twinkie, and Twinkies
Yeah.
are tough to like just.
Eat over and over.
Yeah.
But they're also hard to like create to make it like,
Right.
oh, let's not make it a. No, you just go buy Twinkies.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And
And you know that
That
Wheel
sucks.
of Fish set stank.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
Those are real fish corpses
Yeah.
just stapled
You
to
can-
a board
the
under
way
the
they
lights while
flop
they film.
under hot lights, hot lights.
That
for-
day smelled
for
like fish.
hours.
Like, and there were kids on set with their parents.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
sitting in the audience and it just reeked like fish all day.
Uh,
and Weird Al's like, it's funny though, right? It's worth it.
I did notice at one point Weird Al gets spit upon by a shitty boy
Uh-huh.
Oh,
when he's
yeah.
doing his clubhouse act before Stanley Spayaski gets involved.
Takes over.
And the kid is just laughing so hard. Like you can tell it's breaking character because he like spits on it and it cuts away. I'm pretty sure because they had to like use a different take. But when it
Yeah.
comes back, he's like looking the other direction and like shaking his head and laughing.
I
Like
got
I
to
can't
spit
believe
on
I
an
did
adult.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like a really viscous, gross spit too.
That's so Weird Al always he's a weird mishmash because his sense of humor is so broad and family friendly and like just silly. But then he also loves and will often throw in extreme violence a la a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah.
Right.
And stuff like a bowl of snot. Like he likes horrible slime. He thinks it's funny. that something might be gross and slimy.
Right. Slimy and gross. That's you got it. You got it.
That branch of humor doesn't get me as much. Like all the movie scenes where someone's having painful diarrhea. I don't usually laugh out loud at that stuff.
I do like the violence. I
Violence can
like
be
his
very
violence
funny.
tendencies.
I do remember that in my household, it was like when someone did something that was good, we would reference this movie because you found the marble in the oatmeal.
the marble in the oatmeal.
Which is a game, I guess, that they had going well.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like I don't
Voting for
understand
apples,
that,
but it's marbles
how
in
the
an
show
oatmeal.
works is what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like, because is there a camera on this boy?
And then if you win,
searching,
they fire a fire hose of
you
oatmeal
get to
at
drink
you.
from the fire.
That's the prize.
That's the prize. And he just gets blasted right off. Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe no one's mentioned this moment. There is another really uncomfortable moment given how different it seems today. It cuts to Fran Drescher at one point interviewing a dude in a red baseball hat that looks exactly like a MAGA hat, but it's got a flag decal instead.
Right.
Yeah,
Because that didn't exist yet,
yeah.
obviously.
I know what one you're talking about.
And he says stuff that at that time was so ludicrous to say that you can tell it's a silly joke, like all the other silly jokes. I swear, word for word, his quote is like, not a joke anymore. You would totally hear someone say this on the
no.
news. She goes like, but what about gun control? He goes, gun control is for wimps and communists. Let's make one thing clear. If you come for my guns, they won't kill people. I will. And he points the gun at the camera. And I'm like, that's no longer a silly joke.
Yeah.
Those people are out and about.
Yeah.
There are village idiots still.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Yeah,
true.
but in a way ahead of his time, calling out
Right?
dumb people
Yeah,
who
I mean,
think
he-
that that's what gun
He's
control
like
it's crazy
is.
Nicodemus. He's
He-
like gun Nicodemus.
He thought that was a like ridiculous exaggeration, like to the point that it would be funny.
Right.
It's just weird how far we've
like,
come.
Yeah.
Ugh.
On par with Spatula City.
And now that's
Spatula City.
very common to have a spatula sitting near
Yeah.
you, so it's
Yeah.
lost all comedic value.
Spatula Nicodemus.
Right.
Yeah, I liked in that one. He's like, how the movie announcer is the same. There's only one announcer, and I don't know who it is, but the guy who like narrates Gandhi 2 also does Spatula City.
Yes.
So they just have one.
He came in
I
one
think you're
day
supposed
and
to
recorded
believe-
all the narration.
Yeah, but I think you're
Yeah.
supposed to believe like in the world of UHF.
Yeah.
Or
They're
channel
separate commercial.
Yeah, channel 62 only or U62 only has one guy who does that, and I did like that one joke where in Spatula City it's how better to tell a loved one,
Yeah.
and he hands that to say I love you as he mouths it. Like it's just that joke is now. Because like drunk history is a thing,
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and
the
like
voice-
just mouthing
yeah.
those things.
Right.
But that was like a new joke that I hadn't seen before.
where
I
the
remember when
narrator
I was a
says
kid.
what the
Yeah, and like the person in the world
man.
Saying
couldn't
it.
like what is this
There's
fantasy
a
land?
freakazoid joke that just blew my mind so hard when I was a kid, which is
I
the
love
lip
freakazoid.
sync on the cartoon slowly gets out of sync, like it gets sloppy, but in the way where some cartoons did that sometimes. You didn't really, but then you notice it more and more, and finally Freakazoid stops, looks at the camera, and goes, I'm sorry, can we watch the lip sync? And it cuts to a giant pair of lips sinking into the ocean. I'm like, this is the best. I'll never be so meta.
Wah, wah.
Like I can never. That's
You love
such a
UHF.
Brilliant.
You love it.
No, that's Freakazoid, but it is the same impulse.
It's the same
kind
impulse,
of impulse.
though. You gotta,
Yeah,
you love
I
it.
just
Freakazoid's great.
in my childhood memory, UHF was more successful more of the time, but I still admire all the impulses
Yeah.
behind it.
I think
Right.
for me, I actually didn't. I only saw it once as a kid. I mostly was influenced by Weird Al's music, so I didn't remember
So
any of the
good.
jokes or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it was
I
all
think that
new and
helped.
fresh.
I think it helped. Yeah, I didn't have any expectations going in because I had forgotten all of it.
Yeah, I give it a
we're
9 out of
reviewing
10.
things now?
Yeah,
Okay.
with
I would
rating
give
the
it-
frames.
Well, we rate frames, but we usually try to we don't put a number on it.
No, we don't.
Because
It's
that's
all-
what other more pedestrian film
Yes.
reviews.
Yes.
This is an art form. How do you?
That's what we
it
feel
says
like.
it.
Well, you
Yeah.
heard a whole conversation about our opinions. The number is just
Yeah.
spoon feeding you like you're idiots.
I
Why-
rate
why
this
do you need a
movie
number?
a saxophone emoji.
Whoa.
Nice.
Yeah.
I probably rate it a fish and a poodle on a spatula because those he
Getting
loves
slimy.
He has key words that he thinks like this is just
This
a
is
funny word.
hilarious. Yeah.
Poodles are funny. Poodle spatula's funny.
I rated a Conan the Librarian, which is just
Conan the Librarian.
Solid
It's all good.
sketch.
solid.
The actor who plays Conan in that is amazing because he's just like, I have a book that's due, and he makes this like glottal stop sound,
Yeah.
as he, which is kind of what we were doing at the beginning of the podcast.
Yep.
That's what I was trying to mimic.
At the beginning, yeah. I don't even
As
know
he
how much of that we got on
chops him
tape,
down.
but
Or in
Abe
half.
made that noise, and then we all just started making that noise.
And then it turned into that.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, Maggie.
Yeah.
anytime.
Any other last thoughts from
Funny.
anyone?
I'll say rest in peace, Steven Hillenburg, since we mentioned.
I
Are you grief watching
know.
SpongeBob? Is that what started it? Yeah.
Kind of. And also I like after watching this, I was like, oh my God, that was like so influential. And also SpongeBob.
It is like SpongeBob-y.
And yeah, I've been rewatching it. I'm like, oh man, oops. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just that as a person. But
Yeah. It's sad.
It's
but
good.
it's wonderful.
No,
It is.
Well, it's younger than he deserved, but
Yeah.
I'm
I mean,
shouting
just the
out
body of the work.
his impact. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly.
SpongeBob
Exactly.
rules.
yeah.
I'm not going to get on this
And I-
SpongeBob podcast.
I do think we've mentioned a few things that I'm like there's this special kind of feeling of pure silliness that
But
they all have in common, which is why we're bringing them up.
right, because they have the
Yeah.
heart, like they were talking about,
They
like
do, yeah.
Because Airplane doesn't have heart.
Right.
at all.
Airplane is
so it feels
mean.
different
It feels
than
mean.
this.
Yeah.
It's
that-
equally silly, but it feels different.
like in SpongeBob, that Gary Come Home song, like makes me cry.
Yeah.
And the Ween,
Come home.
the Ween song about teaching Gary how to tie his shoes, also so good. Ween did a
Learn
few
how to tie
songs for
your
SpongeBob.
shoes.
Yeah.
And it's like, so you get that, but then you also get this cartoon Looney Tunes world.
Yeah.
It's like if like Bugs Bunny just decided to have a good old cry once in a while, you know?
Maggie, could I
Yeah.
trouble you to close out the podcast by speeding through Albuquerque in its entirety?
Oh shit!
And-
if you had asked me at like 3 years ago, I could have.
I don't think this is on tape, but you came in saying you knew it.
I did.
That might be on tape. I can't remember if it was before or
No,
after
I did.
recording.
When I was younger, I memorized the whole song. My favorite part is still counting the atoms in Mickey Rooney's butt.
And we're out.